I'm living long enough to see something come to fruition that I never thought I'd see.
Slavery is a foundational issue for America. And this plantation and every plantation was certainly able to either survive or prosper because of the labor that they had, which was enslaved people. And that's just a fact. But what knowing your history does, it takes those facts and then puts them into people's stories. And yes, there's stories of triumph, tribulation, pain, hardship, joy, love, all these different things. Facts are facts, but it's really the people and how they deal with those situations that make it more meaningful on why you tell the stories in the first place.
We know that this would have been a tobacco plantation, as well as corn and other various cash crops. People would have been working out in the fields. There would have been enslaved individuals in the house helping with Mrs. Henry and taking care of the children. But there were a lot of roles here that we're still trying to research. The quarter place is a half-mile trail. It has a reconstructed cabin that is modeled after a lot of the other dwellings that would have been here during Patrick Henry's time, as well as John Henry's time. We also have cabin foundations. These cabins were standing up until the 1950s. There's also a tobacco barn that dates back to 1890s. We have an ordering pit, which was used to put tobacco into order. And then down at the end of the quarter place, we have the quarter place enslaved and African American cemetery with 147 graves.
It's very important that we remember the individuals who were here. Our slave population, even though they worked and toiled and died, their value was very important to the plantation in terms of providing not only free labor, but also development of tools and development of other types of educational and farming equipment that helped to prosper the United States.
So Patrick Henry, while he was the person that said, "Give me liberty or give me death," he still owned 67 enslaved people upon his death. He was really influenced by Reverend Samuel Davies. He understood that it was a terrible institution, but he didn't really know how to get away from it. And we know that he got a lot of his wealth from the institution of slavery.
Patrick Henry was a great orator, a great statesman, but Red Hill as a place was also its own community. And what was happening in that community? Who was doing what? How were they interacting with each other? Slavery was a reality, and it was a financial issue, it was a social issue, it was something that was the reality of the day. But I personally find it much more interesting also to see how things get dispersed and changed and moved around. It's just the beginning of the story.
The history doesn't just stop with the revolution, it continues after. A lot of the individuals that were owned by Patrick were passed on to his wife or his son. While we don't know a lot of their stories, we know their names, and so we're trying to put as much humanity to those names as possible.
My great-grandmother, Harriet Henry, was born and was a slave on this plantation in Patrick Henry's 1799 estate, which is when he died. They listed the slave property along with the livestock property, along with the tools. And in that list was Letty, Peggy, and Shadrach. And Shadrach was probably my great-great-great-great-great-grandnephew or something. But to look at that list and see them on it, a connection here, yes.
So often, African American cemeteries are not documented. They're on private lands, and there's an opportunity for people who have farmlands or people in the various businesses to actually do something about it when you find it. It's really important that we document these places, and thank God that the Red Hill Foundation was able to find this and preserve it and document it and use it as a teaching tool.
I don't know much about the ceremonies regarding burials here, but I do know that all of the burials at the cemetery are marked with a headstone and footstone. They vary from 2 feet and 7 feet in length, and all of them are facing west, which is traditional of African burials. They believe that when Jesus would come again, you would follow him to the new coming.
The kind that you promised us.
This cemetery provides a healing for some of the family individuals who know that their family members actually lived here during slavery time. And it helps to bring them closer to their relatives and legacy. Even though our country was built on slavery, it's very important to know where you came from.
I think the people who came here got a lot from it. I mean, they heard people talk about it. They went into the cemetery. They felt the kind of spirituality and chills that I felt in my body. They're going to take that home. Their teachers here, their children here. It's a very educational experience, and I think it'll go far and wide. Not only that, it's going to be repeated.
It's okay to talk about it. In talking about it, it's like you honor it. Not saying that you're supposed to sit here and say slavery was a good thing. It wasn't a good thing. But talk about it in its realities. And I think that's a great thing that can happen by enhancing the conversation of the African American experience here at Red Hill.
We're here to celebrate our ancestors being here, to celebrate the true meaning of freedom and liberty. In these moments, in the rolling hills of Virginia, in the dawning of a brand new nation, we were here, and our story shall be told. Here today, there are over 140 graves unmarked. Only one tombstone with a name on it. But we know who they were. And though their work went unrecorded, and though there are some legends that didn't even record their name, had them in the same lanes as cattle and shuttles. But we're here to say that they were here. They contributed, and they left a legacy of love.